Okay, great. Thank you. And again, welcome everyone. Good morning. It's good to virtually meet everybody. And that's really what we're talking about here today is, the coronavirus and beyond. We're talking about working remotely. But I really think that this is going to change how we do business. Obviously, it's changed right now, but I don't think we're going to see a full swing back to what we had before. I think that this is pushing the bounds, and this is going to be new territory, and there's going to be a lot of people who are not going to want to go back, or things that won't go back. So what a great time for us to embrace some of the technology and some of the things that are available. One of the great things about something like Zoom is, although we are a tech company, we still do a lot face-to-face. That's why our most of our clients are in the area here. That's where we've been very successful. There's something about face-to-face that you just, it's tough to replace. So with everything that's going on currently, we've had to find a way to replace that, and that's what we've been doing, and obviously we've been helping our clients do that. We're new to the chamber, and it was really great timing, I guess, for us to jump on a meeting like this and talk about some of the things that we're talking about with our clients and share with the chamber here, and hopefully it's of some use. So I don't know, did you, John or Laura, did you give me the ability to share my screen here?
Yes, I did. If you just click on your toolbar, share, you'll be able to share your screen. Just share screen.
Where are we at here? Okay. All right, can everybody see my screen there?
No.
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 All right.
Technical difficulty.
That's right.
Once we're through all this, everybody's going to be computer experts, huh?
That's right.
Here we
All
go.
right.
You
We can
are.
see it.
Oh, you can see the screen now? Excellent.
Yep.
Okay. So I have just a few little slides. I'm not big on killing everybody with slides, like I had said earlier, or maybe before everybody's on the phone. Kind of like to do things a little bit more conversationally. I was hoping we'll get some really great questions and answers for myself and my team. Brady, who is my business partner, co-owner, that's on the call, he's got a lot of great information to share as well. As I may or may not have mentioned here, so just chat a little bit about who I am. Since we are new to the chamber, you may not know me well. So I am the CIO and co-owner of LANtek. We're a managed service provider here in Kutztown. We're right over there on Noble Street. LANtek's been around since 1978. Brady and I have been the owners for about 3 years, but he's been there for 16 years. I've been there for 11 or so odd years. I did take a break in there for a couple of years in between working there and coming back to purchase it. But I've been in IT for 17 years. I went to Lincoln Technical Institute. I've done other training and education, Sailor Academy, University of Pennsylvania, the Wharton Online programs. I'm actually doing some great work with them right now. I do have an A+, Net Plus, and MCP, and a bunch of vendor certifications. Myself and Brady work with 2 different companies here, help them grow by 200%. I am a Berks County native. I was born right in Hamburg, grew up in Hamburg, moved out to the Valley, and ended up coming back. And just a little bit about me. I really enjoy technology, obviously, love golf, love skiing, and of course love spending time with my family. I have 2 young boys who are home right now and are going absolutely crazy. I think they've eaten every snack in the house, and I think they've played every board game, and I think they've watched every video on YouTube. So now we're going to try some schoolwork now that they've worked through all that. So just a couple of things I wanted to talk about here is, as we're talking about working remotely, whether that's, working remotely from your regular office, whether now you're working, remotely and you're sharing things with clients, maybe you're sharing things with coworkers, a couple of the things to keep in mind. I heard a really great analogy because I've been listening to all these webinars and everything like this talking about the coronavirus, talking about working remotely, talking about the industry in general. And I heard the analogy, they really compared it to being like village fisher people. So everybody gets together at night and you go over the hunt or you go over the fish and you have this great get together. But during the day you go out and you're in your boat and you're by yourself and you have nobody around to help with anything. And don't let working remote be like that. Don't let it be like you're in your boat all day and you never get any support. You never get to talk to anyone or get to deal with anyone. There's a lot of great tools out there, whether that's your team, whether that's members from the chamber or other people that you interact with. Although we're in isolation, in some ways I feel like we're more connected now than we ever were. I don't know if does anybody else ever get that feeling? Like, I feel like I've talked to people on the phone or over social media that I haven't connected with in a long time because of this. And I don't know if is everybody else muted? I don't know if anybody else feels that way.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree too.
Which I guess that's a nice benefit or unintended benefit of what's going on here. Is that even too having a little bit more time, taking the kids out for hikes. So I guess it look for the silver lining. But so the first thing I wanted to talk about is staying secure. Obviously, as technical people, one of the first things we think about is security. Technology is great, and that's what often happens, whether it's a new piece of technology or whether it's something like this. Everybody throws the tech out there, and security sometimes seems to follow. But you really want to make sure you are staying secure. And that's really basic, simple things like whatever computer you're using, whatever, whether it's a company owned, whether it's your personal computer, make sure you've got good antivirus, make sure it's up to date, make sure you're using legitimate applications, you're not using cracked copies of software, keep that secure. When you are working remote, make sure you're using things like a VPN. And what we're also starting to see now too is in the wake of this, it doesn't take long for it to catch up, is an increase in cybercrime. People are sending out spoofed emails. People are sending out phishing scams. We're seeing that spiking already. People are saying, is this legitimate? Is this an invitation to connect to our work network? Should I be looking at these files? And what I always tell people is, now that you're at home, it doesn't change what you were doing when you were in the office. Use common sense. Think about scams, whether you're getting phone calls, whether you're getting emails. Make sure that it's something you would legitimately do. Does it make sense? Just because you're at home doesn't mean you should give your password in an email. You wouldn't do that in the office. Don't do it when you're at home. But our help desk is already getting calls from folks that are getting things like that. I'm sure some of you have heard about probably some of the calls and things like that, the bogus Microsoft calls. Those have been around forever. We've been seeing an increase in calls to our help desk that are people posing as someone trying to get you set up remotely, and they're not from their team. So again, just stay secure, stay vigilant. Again, use common sense. A lot of times, if you just stop and think about it, you'll usually figure out pretty quickly that it's something that doesn't make sense.
Shawn.
Yes.
This is Elise asking.
Yes.
Because we work with a lot of clients remotely, and I have my employees taking home their desktop computers as well as their external. We have an external hard drives for each one of them.
Okay.
There a way in which to make sure that, first of all, I did not let any of them use their personal passwords for my clients on those as well. Is there ways in which to remotely secure that with external routers or anything of that nature?
So I'm sorry, you cut out a little bit there. So you said, you have employees they took their desktops and their external hard drives home, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the concern with that?
The concern is, well, now they have all the passwords that they need and whatnot, but now they're working on projects, and each one of them is individually working on projects. Is the external hard drive enough?
So that's a great question, and I didn't when I talked about security, I didn't talk about data security as far as against loss or disaster. If that external hard drive is the only place where that data lives, the short answer would be no. That's not enough, especially if you're traveling with it. You have the risk of losing a hard drive, damaging a hard drive, having theft of that data, should that get, somebody, grabs it out of a car or something like that. If that data is only living on that hard drive, you definitely want to make sure you have that backed up somewhere else. And there's a whole bunch of different options out there, kind of like I'll talk about on a sheet that I'm going to share with everybody. Then there's a lot of free and really low cost ways. Things like AWS is a great place to back data up to. It's really cheap and it's really easy. It's secure. So yes, if that data is only living on the hard drive, you definitely want to make sure that that's backed up somewhere, preferably to the cloud, somewhere that's not within the same physical location.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Was that your question? Did I lose you there?
I know there are people on this call that everybody's going to be working with clients at home, and you're going to have data that you want to save. So it's kind of like, how do you save that so it's secure?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, when I bring up the sheet of some of the things I want to talk about, are some of the applications that are out there. That's one of the great things, whether you're using, Microsoft Office or G Suite, most of those have the ability built in to have file shares and quite a bit of file shares, even in the free plan, that you can back that data up, you can sync it, you can work with it. And a lot of those applications, what they'll do too is they'll actually let you work with it off your local hard drive. I would assume for you, if you're doing marketing and design, your files aren't small. They're not small little spreadsheets. So every time you open up something, you can't wait for it to download for even 60 seconds. So that's what's really great. The technology, the cloud technology, the applications have gotten to a point where it makes it really easy and simple to work with those files, but also have a good backup of those should there be something that happens.
Correct. Thank you.
Absolutely. And again, I'll just mention this again as well. If you've talked to me in the past, you probably hear me say this before, but traveling around with data, thumb drives, external hard drives, just be really cautious with those, especially if you don't have them encrypted. Most have built-in encryption. A lot have the ability that come with them. There's third-party apps out there. If you need something, send a message over to me or get it over to Lori and John, and then get in touch with you. If that thumb drive, if it gets lost, if it gets dropped, if you your data on there, whether it's your client data or whether it's your intellectual property, that's very valuable. That little $12 thumb drive, if that has your intellectual property on there, it's priceless. So make sure you're protecting that. So one, if you lose it, you want to make sure you have that backed up somewhere. But also make sure that if you lose it, that you're not losing your client data, your patient data, again, your intellectual property. That's priceless information. Keep that secure. So the other topic I just want to mention too is the staying up to date, which actually folds right into what we were just talking about. Because you may be working on multiple computers, you may be working, some of us that are essential, we are going to the office. So sometimes we're working on office computers. Sometimes you're working on a home computer. Sometimes you end up out on site somewhere. You may end up out at a client that you have to go to. You want to make sure that you're staying up to date with whatever you're working on. That's already a big deal. I think in the crisis we have here, that's becoming bigger for everybody. So make sure you're staying up to date with your documents and your data. Make sure you're using the right technology, the right platform, so you can make sure that wherever you're working, you can use the experience as if you were at your primary computer. And then the other piece is staying connected, and I'll talk a little bit about that on the next slide. And when we get to the applications that I want to run through, I talked about earlier, made the analogy of everybody out on a fishing boat. Stay connected with your team, stay connected with your clients, your patients, or whomever you're working with, or maybe that's vendors, whoever's important for your business. I do think, and Elise, you said this great earlier, that this is, although this is can be looked at as a negative, it also can be a positive. This is an opportunity for us to, maybe do some of the things we should have been doing before or get set up for. Maybe it's an opportunity for training. But I also, and I'll just go to the next slide here. One of my general tips is, think outside of the Berks box. The chamber here, for those of us who are local, I think there's a lot of talent in this area. And sometimes we get lost we think about this immediate geographic area, but there's talent in this area that doesn't exist anywhere else in the country. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a new chamber member and I'm trying to make everybody like me. I'm saying that because I legitimately feel that way. And we've experienced that with some of our clients. We've experienced that with staff that we've hired. there is talent and things in the area here that don't exist anywhere else. So this is a nice opportunity here to be able to leverage the opportunity and maybe get to some areas, get to some customers and things that you wouldn't have maybe thought of before. So this has really opened it up, at least in my opinion. I don't know if anybody else is experiencing that or anybody else sort of shares that thought process.
Shawn, this is Lori. I completely
Yes.
agree, because through this process, the upside is that at the chamber, we've really redirected our efforts to these virtual platforms. You know, we've dabbled in them a little bit with some pilot programs a few years ago, but not only are we able to deliver some content like today's webinar through virtual platforms, which we haven't done much in the past, but we've also been able to rely on members who have very specific expertise. And when you think about chambers and networking, we have developed and fostered so many relationships over the years. And some of those are very deep relationships. But now I'm finding that those people that maybe I had more of a surface relationship with were able to really build a bond, so to speak, over using that person as a source of knowledge or information or expertise. So there are many upsides to the situation. You're right.
Sure. I'm glad to hear that some other folks are experiencing the same kind of thing. And again, you look, you got to. That's my business philosophy, Brady and I. That's why we make great business partners. You know, there's always going to be these problems and these challenges that come up, but you know, you want to do what you can to put a positive spin on them. So and that was the other point here, and I'll jump down to the third point, just about leveraging technology, and then talking about over communicating and that's been our experience on our team. We have about 22 odd members that are spread out here across Berks, Lehigh, and a couple other counties that you know, obviously as a technology company, we should be using the best technology that's out there. But you know, what's funny, it's this funny effect is it's like the cobbler's kids or the carpenter's house. Our technology, we weren't always using the things that, you know, we do these things day in, day out for our customers, our clients, but we weren't always doing them for ourselves because we were the last ones to get to it. So when this actually spiked, we finally took care of a couple of things that, you know, that we should have been doing as far as you know, remote platforms and telecommunication and things like that. So we've been catching up for ourselves internally, but it's become even more important for us to really have that over communication. But the other piece too that, and we're seeing this, and I've seen this at clients too, is you know, avoid the technology burnout as well, or the technology overload. What seems to work best with all these tools and all the technology out there is it really needs to start at the top down. You can't have one person doing it and not the folks at the top doing it. And whatever platforms, you know, you do choose to use, everybody needs the same one. So if somebody's going to use G Suite, somebody else shouldn't be using Microsoft, and somebody else shouldn't be using Dropbox, and somebody shouldn't be using Zoom and GoToMeeting. You know, whatever you pick, you know, pick your standard and go with it. You know, within your team. Now, obviously, you know, clients, some people are going to prefer Zoom, which is what I always recommend for remote working. It works so easy. It works really well. Out of all the platforms that are out there, which are all getting hit really hard right now, their technology, their servers, their backend seem to be holding up the best. I saw a really funny, you know, meme last night, and that's probably one of the best things that come out of this is some really great memes and humor on social media. But somebody put in about the free Zoom account that shuts off after 40 minutes, and they're like, that's the best piece of technology ever, because how many meetings just seem like they drag on forever. So I thought that was really, really funny. But so what I want to just throw up here real quickly, and like I said, I'll share this with John then. And he can send this around. And again, I won't go through this bullet point by bullet point, but what I did is I threw on here some of the things that we've worked with the most that have seemed the best. And like I said, a lot of these applications are either free or they're really low cost. I put on here some remote meeting applications, things like Zoom, which I had mentioned already. Zoom is always my go-to. It seems to work really, really well. And there's a lot of really flexible platforms. You can do a lot of cool stuff with it. The backgrounds alone seem to be something that everybody really likes. But there's some other great ones out there like GoToMeeting, and join.me, which is also, offers free trials and, really affordable plans. But if you are using the Office 365 subscriptions, or if you're using G Suite, which are really low cost, there are really great meeting tools through there. And as you'll see as I go through the list, those two in particular, which are the heaviest hitters of these, if you're using their platforms, it really comes together. You don't have all these siloed pieces of technology anymore. They all really work well together. And again, like I said, I will share this with John, who can send it out to everybody. Chat tools, I had talked there about over communicating with your team members. Slack and Microsoft Teams, I think are two of the best. They work really well. You can make phone calls, you can make video calls, you can share files through there. Again, if you're using, Microsoft, their 365 Teams that's built in really integrates well for making calls, whether it's inside your team or to folks outside of your team. And you can do a lot of file shares there. And these are all tools, or these are all pieces of technology that I've, myself and we've used them, we've tested them. They have the things you'd want. They're good applications. They're secure. They have good support with them. They're things that I would definitely stand behind. From a file sharing side, I had talked about, staying up to date, staying in sync here. Again, Microsoft OneDrive, it's free. You can get 5 gigs of storage for free. Anybody, you don't even have to sign up for a plan. But if you do have 365, you can get a little bit more storage. Several of these have this, Google Drive and Dropbox as well, as far as being able to send out expiring share links. So if you're going to send that out to a customer or to a prospect or somebody on the other side of the country, you can send them something and allow them to only view it for a certain period of time. You don't necessarily want them to have your information forever, but you can share some info for them. Maybe that's a piece of artwork or something like that. And again, a lot of these, like I said, the Google and the Microsoft ones, multiple pieces integrate. The remote control, again, go to my PC, companies like SlashTop. Google Chrome has a really great remote desktop platform you can use. It's free. It's really easy, really secure, super easy to set up. Our preferred favorite here is the Microsoft one, remote desktop over VPN. Not everybody has the technology for that. Not everybody has a firewall that's capable of VPN. If you have that, that's a really great experience. But I know not everybody has that. So again, when you get the list, take a look at it. There's a lot of really great options on there. And then just some other really cool apps that we've used a lot. NordVPN. So that wouldn't be necessarily to VPN back into an office, but if you're somewhere where you're using public Wi-Fi or you're just really concerned about the security of your connection, it's really cheap when you go some of the plans, and it gives you a really great secure end-to-end tunnel. And one single plan, you can secure up to 6 devices. So if you've got an iPad, maybe you've got an office computer, you've got a computer you travel with or something like that. Evernote, if anybody's used Evernote, that's a really great, it kind of looks like Outlook. It allows you to organize information, links, files, all in a notebook, and there's security settings in there. Start.me is another really great one. It's free to sign up, and you can share that with anybody, or you can share with your team. It lets you put a whole bunch of links on a home page, things that you may use on a regular basis. So that's a really great tool. Something I didn't put on here because I just discovered this the other day, and I think I talked about it before everybody joined the call. But there's an application called Crisp. It's Crisp with a K, and it's free for up to 120 minutes per week. And then the paid plans start really cheaply. But it's really great noise canceling technology. If you go out, if you download it and you play with it a little bit, or if you go check out some of their YouTube videos, it really does a great job of noise canceling. For calls just like this. So if you've got people who are, maybe you live in an area where there's traffic, or if you're like me and you've got kids running around and dogs barking, it really does do a great job. So I know I blew through those really quickly, but like I said, I didn't want to bore everybody just going through them bullet point by bullet point. I know some of you, or a lot of you, have probably used some of those applications. And again, I'll share that with John. He can send it around. So I was hoping maybe we could just open it up to some questions.
This is Mark Crosley from Shoreline and Associates. I said at the beginning that we are using DocuSign.
Yes.
Client signed documents. Are you aware of any other programs that are better than that or that are comparable?
So there's a lot of other programs out there. Honestly, DocuSign has been the best one that I've come across. It's industry standard. I know it's a little bit pricey, but it does work really, really well, and it's really secure. I've seen some people using some other different ones out there, but DocuSign seems to be kind of like Zoom. There's other alternatives out there, but the DocuSign just works really, really well. At least in my experience, and I don't know if anybody else on the call or Brady, if you've used anything. So Brady's my business partner, and he really deals a lot with or I shouldn't say he does everything. I make him deal with all that from the legal and the finance side. So he deals with forms and contracts and digital signatures a whole lot more than I do from that side. So I don't know, Brady, have you come across anything other than DocuSign that made you stop and say, hey, we should look at this? This is a good tool.
Yeah, there's been one other that has popped up recently, and it's from Adobe. It's called Adobe Sign. So they kind of stole the idea a little bit, but it's part of the Adobe Document Cloud. So it's very similar to DocuSign. If you've used that before, it's a document. You pull it up. It's got your signature spots in it, and you click, 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 and then it automatically moves the document to wherever it needs to go when it's done. So I've also used that one. I've been pretty satisfied with that. But I agree with you that DocuSign's sort of the big one that's out there, and I'd say consider the Adobe Sign product also if you're looking for something different.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If I can jump in here, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
So this is Bill Messersmith. And so Mark, the other product that I've used just recently is called LANtek. And it was through Tompkins Bank. And it worked very well. And it was unusual in that it allowed two different signers to sign on independent computers and see that the signatures were showing up on both documents, both copies in different computers. DocMagic is the name of the company.
And what was the
Don't know much
program
more
name?
about it. I'm sorry, say again.
What was the program name?
DocMagic, DocMagic.
Okay.
And I, of course, have no idea about cost since I was a user rather than a purveyor.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Anybody else, or Brady, anything you wanted to add that maybe I missed or glazed over?
No, I think you were pretty thorough on that. It's we like you had said, we've had a chance to experiment here a little bit. We've had initiatives for a long time and didn't always put them into place until recently. So we've had a chance to try Teams and Zoom and GoToMeeting and Slack. There's just you can be overwhelmed with it. We accidentally got ourselves a little overwhelmed over the last few days because as everybody experimented with it, we lost control of which one should we use. And some people started using Teams, and some people were still using Slack, and some people were missing information because everyone thought someone else was watching what they were doing on one particular platform. So that would be a word of warning, I would suggest, as you start to implement things. Just make sure that you pick one that you like and you standardize on it. And I do like one of the other things Shawn said too. It's very easy from the top down to say, I want you all to use this, but I think the success and the adoption rate throughout your company is a whole lot better if it starts with the people in charge. If you're not doing it, it's a real tough buy-in to get everybody else to do it. So find something that you yourself are comfortable using, and don't let people half your age go through and pick ones that are so complicated you can't figure it out yourself. Just try to dive in, and everyone will follow you. But it's really been amazing here. we work with the SBA, and recently our SBA representative called us and just said, "How you guys doing? I'm getting calls. My phone's ringing off the hook, and people are looking for loans, and it's really tough." And I just went, "No, we're fine. Like our phone has rung off the hook recently setting up remote access systems, and it's because we had already adopted this type of remote working capability. We had never pushed it out to the whole company all at one time, but we had all the infrastructure in place to do it. So for us, it was just a matter of, hey guys, we're closing the office tomorrow, so everybody work from home." And we really, aside from a couple of administrative logistical things like checking the mail, who's going to get the checks in the bank, we really have run our company fully functional from home with internet connections, and it's been pretty successful, I would say. I don't know if Shawn agrees with that, but for what we got thrown into with no notice and scrambling a little bit, this remote technology really has come far enough that we're starting to talk about, well, do we really need an office this big? When this is all over, maybe this is the new norm. We might just have people working from home a lot more because it works. It's there.
I mean, this might not be a question for Shawn or Brady, but are employers responsible to cover work expenses for remote employees while they're working from home? For instance, we have 2 people working from home, both need a VPN, and then we have kids at home as well. And so I've had to increase the bandwidth quite a bit in order to be able to that work here. Our 50 megabits wasn't working, and in the rural area where we are, to get higher bandwidth from Service Electric, 1, it doesn't seem much higher, but 2, it's a bit more expensive. So it's just if that becomes a new norm, do some of those office costs then shift to reimbursements? That's something on my mind.
Yeah, that's a great question. I have supported people at LANtek who have worked in Tennessee or who have moved to South Carolina. And I think the answer to your question comes down to what you believe you should do. I personally have thought, when you're here, I've got a portion of my rent, a portion of my electricity, a portion of my my business building operating expenses I'm allocating across however many people are in the office. So if I've got somebody that is setting up a space in their own home and doing everything there where I didn't have to necessarily equip them for everything, I have never had a problem personally sending them $40 a month. Like, hey, I know you would have gotten this internet package for yourself. You're going to need a little bit more because of what you're doing for me. So I'm gonna throw in a $40 or $50 expense check every month. I do that personally, and also I figure if you're working for me, if people have needed headsets or desks that go up and down, any type of stuff I would normally get them for the office, I'll also get them for their homes within reason. Not going to go too crazy with it. But ultimately, I think the decision comes back to you. Personally, I feel an employee will get bitter over time if you expect them to pay all of the expenses and don't kick in for it. It's just my opinion. That the next time that internet bill comes and they go, well, I could save money, but I'm doing this for work and I need it. So, that jerk's not throwing me a little extra. I think it can seed some resentment. So,
But
Brady, if I may say this, I have to tell you that I've always provided the costs for employees to work remotely. I can tell you that if you have a shop that runs professionally, you're going to make sure that your people can be professional. And it's just a cost of doing business. And you have business expenses on your tax return.
Yeah,
Most
it's
of
tax deductible.
your employees don't have that capability. So one, it's unfair to expect them to do it from the point of view of paying your freight. And second, you have the taxability. Plus,
Yeah.
it's your professional product.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And you know, to go back to something that John said, and then Brady touched on it, and actually Bob had messaged me at the beginning saying my audio was fuzzy. I think that what we're seeing here too is definitely a strain on the internet infrastructure for a lot of us. Some of you I know, like for Brady or for Riggs, they live in areas where the internet isn't great to begin with. But for me, I'm a third of a mile outside of Kutztown. We've got great internet service here. But I think that everybody being home, we're all as professionals home working on this, but then we've got other people in the house, whether that's kids or kids home from college or anything like that, streaming on multiple devices, not just one. We're definitely hitting our home internet harder. We're hitting the equipment harder, and we're hitting the internet service provider, the bandwidth, harder than ever too. And that's something I think to really take into consideration from our home packages, from the home equipment, but also too when we're depending on these tools to have a little bit of an understanding that some of it may not always be absolutely 100%. Or we may need to look at doing things like bumping internet packages, like you said. The 40 meg package might have been enough, but now that you've got 3 or 4 people working on it every day, you're going to have to bump it. And Bob, yeah, Brady and I wholeheartedly agree. If you're going to ask folks to work from home, it's really right to take care of them. I don't know from a legal or an HR standpoint, but yeah, if you've got somebody talking to clients all day, you don't want them on a choppy internet. If I'm making you a pitch for managed services and every 6 seconds I'm garbled and you can't see my screen, well, sure, that doesn't look professional. That doesn't look good. I'm not going to sell you.
I have 2 other things. One, what have you heard about the webcam shortage?
Well, I think, and Brady can chat with you maybe a little bit about this too, is because we do a lot of product procurement for large companies, there is a technology shortage period right now. And I think there's some things that started with that, but as production in China and parts of the world have been hit with coronavirus, we're seeing a definite shortage of technology in general. Brady, if you want to speak on that.
No, that's pretty much it. Intel has been giving us a really hard time for over a year now with processor shortages. So that's affected desktops and laptops. And now this doesn't surprise me at all. I had not actually heard about that yet, but that I suspected about 2 or 3 weeks ago that there was going to start to be a web camera shortage. I'm seeing it a lot. The most calls I've had have been from doctors who have suddenly had to go home and have a really good quality HD camera at home so that they could begin doing telemedicine. So I know there's a lot of that. That industry is gobbling them up. Just everywhere across the board is eating them up. The nice thing though, I do not own a web camera. I have a laptop and I'm staring at the screen here. And I know my microphone leaves a little bit to be desired, but I think it's nice to, if you're going to work from home, you can get a lot of that stuff that you need in a single piece of equipment if you think far enough ahead. Like look for a laptop that has a web camera built into it, that has a microphone built into it. Some laptops come with integrated Verizon and AT&T wireless WAN cards. So you simply, what's the word? You piggyback them to your wireless data plan. And you don't need to find a Starbucks or an open hotspot anywhere as long as you have cell phone signal. You can just sit in your car and turn your laptop on and have a Zoom meeting if you need to. So I think people will start thinking about that a little bit more moving forward. Now that we've seen some of these shortages and they've determined what they want to do, I think you'll see a bigger focus on, well, we see it, instead of just, I want a laptop. Well, no, I mean, what do you want to use it for? Oh, well, I need a numeric keypad and I need a web camera and it has to connect to the cellular network. And we'll start to see people being more specific about what they want versus just, I need a computer I can take home with me because we're going through this exercise.
Also, IT departments can future-proof and sort of prepare. I have an IP phone that I use in my office, and all I had to do is unplug it from my office router and plug it into my home router, and it works.
Yep.
And all my phone calls come right to my phone at my home, which is really convenient. It's easier than using a cell phone from a day-to-day standpoint because I can make clearer, more professional calls.
Yeah.
That's and just in just in terms of, so for the phones and for, we talked about webcams. So if anybody's looking for a headset, and we're not an authorized reseller, I don't make a penny off them, but the Jabra headset, the Jabra Evolves, I'm a big evangelist of those. Like I said, we don't make anything off them, we get no endorsement from them, but if you're looking for a headset for about $140, you can get one that's wireless, battery lasts more than all day. It really seamlessly goes back and forth between Bluetooth from a cell phone, a computer, a regular phone. I mean, as far as headsets go, the Jabra Evolve, they are a couple dollars more, but they are awesome. If you're on the phone a lot, I think that is a product I really, really highly recommend.
Does anyone else have any other questions? What's going on the screen behind you? You got some sort of graphic display.
So that's a real-time cyber threat map. And that's not just for the call. I do actually like to keep that up. It actually shows by country and all over the world just threats that are going on, whether they're denial of service attacks or email scams and things like that. So that's something that we like to monitor.
Oh my God.
That's very cool.
It's scary.
I do have one question, if I can jump in here for a moment. This is Todd Klinger.
Yes, Todd.
We have a Dropbox enterprise account that we keep everything secure. We have one person managing shares on it. What's your overall opinion of Dropbox?
So I think Dropbox is a great standalone product. A lot of times when you're going through a corporate email server is where I see it the most, is because of size limits. I see people a lot of times use a Dropbox if they don't have an FTP site or something like that. So I think it's a really great platform for that. I think it syncs really well with your local files. I think it's secure. I think they do a nice job there. I think you get a lot of storage for your money. My only complaint or criticism to it would be, and this isn't necessarily a criticism, is it's a little bit more of a standalone product. If you're using like a G Suite or an Office 365, you likely already have a Dropbox style product built in where you don't need to set up extra rights and things like that. But I mean, I've always been a big fan of Dropbox. I think it works really well, and I just think it's a very easy to use product.
Thank you.
Do you have a specific criticism about it, or we're just interested in general input?
Just general input. We don't run a server. We're a total cloud-based company.
Awesome.
So it's been working real well for us. I just kind of was trying to get an overall opinion of it.
Yep. Yeah, I think, again, Dropbox versus Box.com. Box.com is a great product, but it's very, very complex, and it's expensive. That's Box.com. But Dropbox, again, really affordable, really accessible, secure, works great there. I think their mobile app works really, really well. So like I said, for the right product for the right solution, I haven't had anything where I would say, oh my gosh, don't use Dropbox. They had a huge breach of security, or it's a pain in the rear end. I think it's a really solid product.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Great question.
Okay, if there aren't any more questions, I think we'll wrap up our session. I would like to thank Shawn Kramer and also Brady for some valuable information. I think we've been presented with a number of good solutions for business. And we appreciate all of you participating in our first Northeast Berks Chamber virtual webinar. Thank you, John, for facilitating. And everybody have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye.